I'm going to do one more take here. Inside curves could be confusing to some people, to newer people, and also the seasoned people could have said, John, you're carrying things a little too far. You're being a little too careful. On the degree inside curves on this, as far as wrapping. Now, I'm not going to do any harm if I wrap the whole bow, That's just going to like pinch that back down. Let me get an exaggerated example. An exaggerated example so you understand what I mean. Inside curves. This is my talisman. I've got a good one here. This is a pretty severe one. And one in the handle section, like a typical longbow. I'm not talking about the sinew on the back pulling up, really. Now, when you have a line of sinew and it follows this curve, when it shrinks, it's going to want to straighten out. So you might get it. This is tricky. This is hard. This is technically difficult. If I've got sinew that follows this curve around that and it shrinks, it'll want to straighten out and some things will happen there. You might see a little bit of wood there on the edge where the sinew, did I say shrink? And when it shrinks, it's going to want to straighten out. The problems can arise on an inside curve when you go over the edge. I'm really talking about edges, not the back when I'm talking inside curves. Every time I say that, take a drink. You've got the sinew laying down on the side. And I've seen this when I didn't put a wrap right here to support it. And when the sinew shrinks, look at that, it wants to pop up. Inside edges, talking about the sides really, not the back. Pops up. And then you have to repair it. Size it really carefully, get glue under that edge, and then wrap it. Even a little bit of sinew wrapping will keep that down. That's what I mean about inside edges. Really, when it's more severe like this. Why I say seasoned bow makers probably are thinking you're carrying things a little too far on this. It's because that's not a major one. But it still is inside curve. And when I go over the side and I've got sinew on the edge, I don't want that edge to lift up. This is probably even less so right here. But again, you're not hurting anything. When you wrap your back so it sticks down. That's it. That's the inside edge scenario. Now, I've made a number. Some people like heavy bows. Not English longbow heavy, but American style heavy. A bow this long, 48 inches. And I've made these. Osage sinew backing with a power layer, 80 pounds. When you're drawing that bow back 24 inches, 48-inch bow, 80 pounds, there's a lot of forces at work on the back. There's a lot of forces at work everywhere. I will fully tiller that bow, and then I'll also put a sinew wraps middle end, just to keep that back down. Different deal than what I was talking about, why I'm wrapping these things. But yeah, that's it. I know that the whole inside edge thing was clear as mud, but I was referring to when you do the sides where there's a change in straightness and having it boink, lift up right there. Well, I think that's all I need to say. One right there. Oh, I picked this one up. Suppose you have a tighter recurve. This is a more sweeping recurve. Sinew back, just minor recurve. I can just keep it down with the gauze until it's dry on this thing. Take the gauze off. And I don't necessarily need to worry about it popping up. All it'll do is tighten the recurve more. The glue will hold that back down and it's not going to go doink, pull away. But if this was a tight recurve on maybe a heavier bow, it will do that, pull up. The risk is greater. So I would wrap it you know, on that curve, so there's no way it can lift up. But on this one, again, just out of habit, I would want to wrap it with sinew, but I would stop myself. I'd say, once this dries enough, all it's going to do is just tighten that recurve when it shrinks down. It's not going to pull away. This inside curve, it's gentle. It doesn't have any like severe changes, but you might want to consider on a very tight recurve wrapping it. The sinew might shrink to the point where the wood isn't going to want to bend into a greater recurve, kind of a thing like that. It's just being careful. Maybe, you know, pants and suspenders instead of just, or belt and suspenders instead of just wearing a belt or suspenders. That's all. That's all I'm talking about. Edges, not backs, inside curves. Unless it's a recurve. Unless it's a Wednesday at 3:30 in the morning. Exceptions.